Subscribe to our channel and also press the bell icon to never miss an update from Kautilya's Fincast.
Welcome to Kautilya's Fincast from November 1st to November 15th.
Let's begin with corporate news.
This is for the first time in India that the company would sell its apparels and accessories online. DLF Director Ashok Tyagi said the company would soon appoint consultants for creating a proper structure of its rental assets. Singapore has established itself as a hub for real estate investment trusts over the past 2 decades. Production-linked incentive opens up the potential to build a sprawling ecosystem in India of mobile manufacturing and design. Ajay Mehta, India VP for HMD Global, will now start his own IoT venture, Ikiva, that will focus on the healthcare domain. Netflix is also hard bundled with Jio's fixed broadband service, with free access to subscribers opting for data plans starting at $20 per month. Shares of Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba tumbled, gave a shocking decision by Chinese regulators to scrap the public listing of its spin-off financial tech company, Ant Group. The affiliation with the Maharashtra government is aimed at encouraging industrial development in the state, with streamlined land acquisition and administrative processes. Airbnb is set to be one of the largest stock market listings of 2020, in what is already a blockbuster year for IPOs. In roads, Adani Enterprises Limited signed 5 concession agreements with NHAI, under hybrid annuity model, for construction of roads aggregating to over 200 kilometers. The Resolution Professional of Jet Airways has submitted the revival plan to the NCLT. Once the NCLT gives the go-ahead, the winning consortium can pump in funds required to revive the airline. Flipkart Group is set to buy a stake in Universal Sports Biz Private Limited, which owns youth fashion brands MS Taken, Ron and Single, as it seeks to expand its fashion portfolio. The Telangana government on Friday announced that Amazon Web Services has finalized a $2.77 billion investment to set up multiple data centers in the biggest FDI in the history of Telangana. Tesla Incorporated launched its own brand of tequila on the electric car maker's website, making good on a promise by CEO Elon Musk, with a $250 per bottle experience that was unavailable within hours of the product's liftoff. Big Basket has faced a potential data breach which could have leaked details of its around 2 crore users. Saibal said that a hacker has put data allegedly on sale for around 30 lakh rupees. The government is planning to sell up to 15% of its stake in railway engineering company IRCON International Limited through an offer for sale of shares. Deutsche Bank act to sell a technology services unit to Tata Consultancy Services Limited, helping the bank chip away at CEO Christian Swing's ambitious job-cutting target. Food aggregator Swiggy has initiated a secondary liquidation program for its employees, worth $7 million to $9 million, which will allow them to exercise their stock options. The Tata Group and private equity firm Gajjar Capital and World Bank arm International Finance Corporation are among those in talks with 1mg to invest a total of at least $100 million in the pharmacy firm. General Motors wants to hire electrical system and infotainment software engineers as well as developers for Java, Android, iOS and other platforms. The company says the jobs will be filled before March 30th. The US contends that TikTok is a national security threat, saying it could give China's government access to the personal data of millions of Americans, because it's owned by a Chinese company. Reliance is already India's biggest company, and its market capitalization of $185 billion equals about 6.6% of India's GDP. Mukesh Ambani has built his businesses with decades-long understanding of India's bargain-hungry consumers. With this integration, users will be able to pay for their Uber rides through their Paytm postpaid account. Paytm already has a long-standing partnership with Uber, with its payment gateway allowing Uber riders to make instant payments from Paytm wallet. Amazon.com has asked India's market regulator to investigate Future Retail Limited for insider trading, as it seeks to prevent its business partner from becoming part of rival Reliance's empire. Meteor 350 is a strategic model for Royal Enfield that marks the beginning of the RA 2.0 plan that entails new products and platforms, replacing the old range. While Future Retail has filed a lawsuit against Amazon in the Delhi High Court to stop it from interfering in the RIL Future deal, the US retail giant has urged immediate intervention by SEBI and CCI in a bid to halt the deal. Dhanteras is an auspicious day when people in India buy precious metals, utensils, consumer durables, and automobiles. To boost sales during the festive season, Tata Motors had recently rolled out new variants of its cars. Uber has been seeking options for its autonomous vehicle divisions, a heavy cash burn machine, including seeking more outside investment. The firm has been intensely focused on skilling and generating local employment in markets like the US, which has helped the IT services major become about 63% visa independent in the US, and over 50% in Europe and Australia and New Zealand. Reliance Retail Ventures Limited has acquired equity shares of Urban Ladder Home Decor Solutions for a cash consideration of 182.12 crore rupees. The said investment represents 96% holding on the equity share capital of Urban Ladder.
Let's begin with market news.
Shortage of oilseed in domestic market will help mustard sustain above its minimum support price declared by government at 4,650 rupees per quintal. Solid quarterly earnings from America's biggest tech firms weren't enough to keep investors from selling. The latest sign sentiment is turning against ultra-expensive digital megacaps. The IPO, which was sold in October 2022, was subscribed much less compared with the issues that hit the market prior to it. The HNI quota of shares in the IPO remained unsubscribed at 22%. Most money with high conviction and concentration can be made in companies having a market cap between 1,500 rupees minus 25,000 crore. If growth is sustained and management is hungry and trustworthy, then market price the stocks accordingly. Between January and September, QQQ Capital Management posted gains of 275%, making it the top hedge fund in the world, according to Eureka Hedge data. Foreign investors are tiptoeing back into Indian sovereign bonds, but they continue to sell the nation's corporate debt, as the coronavirus spread hurts earnings. There was $751 million of outflow from credit account NSDL. The company plans to raise up to 1,250 crore rupees through issuance of fresh equity, and allow its China-based promoter, Fosun Pharma Industrial Private Limited, and continuing shareholder Gland Celsus Chemicals Private Limited to sell part of their stake. December contracts on the S&P 500 rose 1.6% as of 10:25 p.m. in New York, while the swift rally in Nasdaq 100 futures triggered an exchange-mandated 2-minute trading pause. In its IPO, Gland Pharma plans to raise 1,250 crore rupees through issues of primary shares, and also have an offer for sale of up to 34.9 million shares. Asian share markets firmed on Thursday, while bonds held big gains, as investors awaited a clear result from the US election, with the likely prospect of policy gridlock seemingly warmly welcomed by Wall Street overnight. The stock of the private sector lender has outperformed the market by surging 10% in the past week, as compared to a 5.6% rise in the S&P BSE Sensex. The LLF increase comes at a time when Concor is on the divestment list of the government. This is a huge overhang on the stock, as this contingent liability can hit Concor's balance sheet. Chief Executive Partha Pratim Sengupta said that first target is to improve the bank's balance sheet and remain profitable in next 2 quarters. April next year, as it expects muted credit growth amid economic contraction. The license to explore and produce oil and gas from Barmer was due to renewal in May this year, but pending settlement of the dispute, the government has given 5 extensions till January 31, 2021. Gland Pharma IPO is the biggest initial public offering by a pharmaceutical firm in India. The company is offering 4.3 shares in the IPO. The combined market valuation of 9 of the top 10 most valued companies zoomed by ₹2 30,219.82 crore last week, with HDFC Twins leading the pack. Foreign portfolio investors turned net buyers in October in Indian markets by putting in 22,033 crore rupees as participant sentiment was driven by resumption of economic activities and robust quarterly corporate results among others. Royal Enfield, the customers can choose from more than 500,000 permutations on the recently launched cruiser Meteor 350 alone. To begin with, the 350cc Thunderbird replacement is being offered in 15 color options on the fuel tank. State-owned Railtail Corporation of India Limited has received capital markets regulator SEBI's go-ahead to raise 700 crore rupees through an initial share sale. Government will offload 8.66 crore equity shares. The board of L&T Finance Holdings Limited, the financial services arm of construction conglomerate Larsen & Toubro Limited, on Monday approved a plan to raise as much as 3,000 crore rupees through a rights issue. Progressive share brokers said the sentiment towards the IPO has dampened a bit due to Chinese investments. The 6,480 crore rupees issue received bids for around 6 million shares, compared with the issue size of around 30 million shares. KPIT Technologies jumped nearly 8% in Wednesday's session, after the company said it has won a strategic lead from automobile major BMW for next-generation charging electronics program. Seizing on controversial new deregulation, entrepreneurs are selling farmers' apps to connect them to big buyers nationwide, and using artificial intelligence to improve the rickety supply chains that lose 1/4 of India's produce to wastage. There is a grave risk of generalization of price pressures, an anchoring of inflation expectations, feeding into a loss of credibility in policy interventions, economists wrote in the Reserve Bank's bulletin. The June quarter was sharply hit by the COVID-19 lockdown, which resulted in a whopping 85% year-on-year drop in Bata India's revenues. As the economy gradually unlocked, the company was able to restart its stores, leading to a sequential recovery. Wall Street's main indexes opened higher on Friday, as Disney and Cisco jumped after reporting upbeat quarterly results. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 123.73 points. Leading car makers Tata Motors Limited and Toyota Kirloskar Motors Private Limited have reported year-on-year growth in bookings and retail deliveries made on Dhanteras. Adani Enterprises has written to the Committee of Creditors of Dewan Housing Finance Corporations Limited, expressing its interest to bid for the entire portfolio of the troubled company. Tata Steel's Q2 numbers came in ahead of the street's estimates, with the company seeing one of the highest steel delivery volumes in many quarters. The firm is also looking at an asset sale of its Netherlands unit. HDFC Bank has revised interest rates on fixed deposits on selected tenures. The bank has cut the interest rate on deposits maturing in 1 year and 2 years.
Let's begin with economy news.
In a bid to strengthen capital base, the union government has provided 670 crore rupees to regional rural banks, considering their importance in agriculture finance during these difficult times. The pandemic-induced growth contraction and additional spending has amounted to a little over 2% of the economy and likely to push the combined fiscal deficit to 13% of GDP. Banks, financial institutions and NBFCs have been asked to record the difference between compound and simple interest collected on loans of up to 2 crore rupees during the moratorium scheme. India's unemployment rate for October rose slightly to 6.98% compared to 6.67% in the previous month. The government's decision to extend the ECLG schemes is good news for banks. The scheme for MSME has saved banks from taking a hit on asset quality. India has gradually opened up the economy for FDI, except very few sectors, and has also extended a lot of tax concessions for sovereign funds to attract long-term investments in India's infrastructure sector. After recording positive growth in September, India's export declined 5.4% in October. Imports fell by 11.56%, narrowing the trade deficit gap to $8.78 billion as against $11.76 billion. The Asian Development Bank has approved $132.8 million United States dollars loan to improve and upgrade the power distribution network in Meghalaya. This is to infuse liquidity. Employment in the month of October 2020 fell for the first time since May, when the recovery began, after the nationwide lockdown was imposed. The collection efficiency trends in the microfinance sector has improved from April to September, but challenges are likely to continue in the near term. The RBI hopes that the co-lending model will improve the flow of credit to the unserved and undeserved sector of the economy at an affordable cost, considering the lower cost of funds from banks. Rajasthan has accepted the centre's borrowing proposal to meet GST revenue shortfall and will get over 4,600 crore rupees through the special window. As we move towards digital transactions, the temptation for dealing with cash will be brought down, and the GDP calculation can be much closer to the actual strength of this Indian economy. The gap between GST cess collections and revenue shortfall faced by states for implementing the GST could snowball to between 5 rupees to 7 lakh rupees crore by 2022 from the 2.35 lakh rupees crore. The economy is expected to bounce back from the next fiscal. The next normal will see a paradigm shift and some of them will be permanent. Chhattisgarh is ready to emerge as a silver spot as the cloud of economic recession looms over across the world. The state government has come up with various new policies to fast-track industrialization. As everyone seems to be focusing on the disruption brought in by COVID pandemic, India could be sitting on a $300 billion opportunity and could actually double its manufacturing GDP. The recommendation is just a percentage point short of the 42% level suggested by the 14th Finance Commission. The SNP reflects the change in the status of Jammu and Kashmir from state to union territory. India is seeking exemption from high duties imposed by the US on steel and aluminium products, resumption of export benefits to certain domestic products under the GSP, and greater market access for its products. 11 manufacturing value chains in India have strong potential to operate in international markets, boosting India's power and providing long-term employment and skill pathways to several Indians. The government is bringing at least 25 crore unorganized sector workers of its plan to extend old age pension, health insurance, disability aids, and a host of other social security benefits. As per the rating agencies, major states together had a budgeted capital outlay of over 5.7 lakh rupees crore for 2020-21, as against revised estimate of 5.1 lakh rupees crore in 2019-20. Customs duty of 5% has been imposed on few items, for the manufacture of open cell for televisions like pure cell and printed circuit board for open cell from the 12th of November 2020. The cap on capital expenditure has been eased to 75% from 33%, lifting the cap on spending for district development, and through MLA's fund is expected to release over 40,000 crore rupees. In the run-up to the festival, retailers including Amazon.com and Corporation, and Walmart and Corporation's Flipkart, saw a 55% jump in online sales from a year ago to $4.1 billion. The fiscal impact of the stimulus is likely to be around 0.25 to 0.6% of GDP in the current fiscal. Impact of this is estimated at around 0.5% of GDP in financial year 21. Forecast for India's growth to -8.9% for the calendar year 2020 from -9.6%, and for the coming year as well to 8.6%, from 8.1% earlier, in its Global Macro Outlook 2021-22. Given abundant dollar liquidity, the stock market is expected to edge higher, after a rollercoaster summer 2076. Goldman Sachs raised its Nifty target to 14,100 to 11% up. The index now casts GDP growth at -8.6% in Q2, implying that India is likely to face a technical recession. Data for the month of October 2020 has brightened the near-term outlook. The size of the stimulus under the package amounts to 2.65 lakh rupees crore, taking the total stimulus announced by the Government of India and RBI till date to 29.87 lakh rupees crore.